All right, Sunday on the Krueg Show after Giants baseball. And man, today we get a special guest. Craig Mish joins us from the Sports Grid. You also catch him in the Miami Herald. And of course, Craig Mish and I go way back because, man, when Giancarlo Stanton was potentially going to come to the Giants, we spoke to him many times, and he's back on the Krueg Show. Craig, how are you? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to you, Larry. Congratulations on this great venture that you started, by the way. Obviously, so much respect for everything that you do all the years. Honestly, it's an honor to be on with you when you asked me to come on. Yes is always the answer for you, my friend. So thanks for having me.
Well, appreciate it. Well, tell me what the expectations are in Miami with this Marlin team coming into 2022 before we actually get to what this series looked like.
Yeah, well, look, it's definitely a transitional year yet again. It kind of feels like because, as probably a lot of people know by now, Marlins when they were purchased by Bruce Sherman and Derek Jeter a few years ago, that was sort of the game plan, the long-term game plan. Then all of a sudden that changed right at the end of the lockout as Derek Jeter and the organization parted ways, and so now. Larry Kim Eng, who is the general manager, is actually basically overseeing all of baseball operations. She is the one that's now in charge. Derek Jeter is now gone. All the decisions are hers to make at this point. Bruce Sherman has been more vocal about the team. He's done press conference where he's talked about different things that the team is going to do and be. And so we're going to have to see if the direction sort of remains the same as to when it was under Derek Jeter. And obviously at this point, and Larry, unfortunately for the Marlins, fortunately for the Giants haven't had to go through these long spells of rebuilds and losing. I actually thought the Giants were going to have to go through that, but they didn't. Miami's kind of in it right now here with, on the cusp of getting out of it. So they say that this is the year that the real next step has to be taken, meaning 500 around there, maybe postseason. And that remains to be seen at this point.
What'd you think of how they looked in this series? I mean, Giants win the series 2 out of 3. Marlins got game 2 yesterday behind Pablo Lopez.
Yeah.
What'd you think of how the Marlins looked in this first series?
It's funny that you asked me, Larry, because right before I came on the air, I was watching the game with my wife, my son. My daughter doesn't care; she's not watching it. But my wife and my son are watching the game, and my wife says, "Wait a second, didn't the Giants they were the best team in baseball last year? So this is a really good sign for the Marlins." And so then I have to get into the discussion. Yes, it's a good sign. This is how the Giants play. They put you to sleep. After 5 innings, they get you in the chokehold. They bring in all these different relievers. And Gabe Kapler's making all these crazy changes. You can't figure them out. And they work. I'm like, so I don't know if this is a good indication as to how they play, because the Giants are going to do this against Pittsburgh probably later on in the season when they play them too. They're going to win 3-2. They're going to win 4-2. But look, encouraging because of the pitching is good. But I would say probably the biggest takeaway from me from a positive point of view for Miami was that this is a bullpen going into the season that was definitely questionable in terms of some of the ads that they made. They did very little, and they really looked, I thought, excellent for the most part in this series, especially the guy that you guys are familiar with in Steven Okert. Shocking how good he has become. He's become a big piece of their bullpen at this point.
Yeah, he's a lefty with good stuff, and he can pitch a lot, and I'm sure Don Mattingly loves that. Jazz Chisholm somehow, when I went back and forth this morning on Twitter, I'm not exactly sure. I actually was reading. I was trying to book you, so we booked you on the show,
right?
But then I started reading some of your stuff, and I thought you would reference that Jazz had gone against Mattingly, and that's kind of what I read into his tweet.
Right.
That it seemed like he was like, why is Bertie at second base in game 2 when I homered on opening day?
Right.
But then he took the tweet down, said that the tweet was about Dwayne Haskins, the deceased Steeler quarterback.
Right.
What do you make of the little exchange there?
Okay.
What was Jazz tweeting? What am I reacting to? What happened there?
I mean, for you to be involved in this, of all people,
seriously, how did I get
Larry
involved
Krueger? He's going after Larry Krueger. Maybe we should invite him on a YouTube stream.
Seriously, Jazz, come on in.
Yeah, what I wanted, I was close when I saw you tweet that. I was like, I wanted to respond to you initially saying, hey, Larry, just go back a few tweets, scroll back a few tweets, and you'll kind of see exactly what happened. But I didn't get a chance to because, yeah, you're right. Jazz this morning, I think, for this morning for you, this afternoon sort of for me, said that it was about Dwayne. That tweet in particular was about Dwayne Haskins. Obviously, a tragic situation.
Yeah.
Haskins, keep in mind, Larry, was killed, unfortunately, tragically, in South Florida as well. I don't. I mean, I suppose maybe Jazz has a relationship with him of some kind. You know, look, the thing in social media these days is that when you send something out, it feels like you're the only one seeing it. But you tweet something out, he responds, even though there wasn't a ton of interaction. I got a lot of people asking me about that now. Wait a second here. You know, does this timeline add up? Is that the real situation? I mean, and who am I to try and predict one way or the other if a player has a relationship, especially in this horrible situation? So, like that one in particular, I'm just going to wash it at this point and just say, you know, let's obviously in this case, given the fact that this is what he's saying, you obviously, I think you take a player at his word and you take a person at his word. And so naturally condolences, of course, to the Dwayne Haskins family and everybody involved in that horrible situation. Back to baseball, though, for a minute. What you were reading into, Larry, was when the lineup came out on Saturday, a lot of Miami fans saw that Jazz was not in the lineup.
Right.
And so what was happening was Jazz was tagged on a lot of these tweets, and some not tagged, by the way, and decided, you know, to get, you know, sort of angry with the fans. He wanted to play. I spoke to him a little bit today. He says that he just wants to play and you know, didn't really know if it was wrong to show his emotion and that sort of situation from not being in the lineup, especially after he just hit a home run the day before. And look, to me, I think this is much ado about nothing. And especially it should have been for Jazz, because Don Mattingly, the manager, has a history of playing all of his guys the first weekend. He basically has said before, Larry, that he learned this from Joe Torre when he was with the Yankees. Obviously, the main guys, you know, right away didn't sit. But Joe Torre liked to get everybody involved when he was with the Dodgers, when he was at the Yankees, just that first weekend, just so everybody feels like they're part of the team. Now, this came at the expense of Jazz, who just hit a home run. And obviously, Jazz has a very high opinion of himself, as he should. He's coming off a really strong rookie season. But going on social media and going, you know, commenting and liking and retweeting things that are said about Mattingly, not knowing what he's doing and setting the lineup, I don't know. To me, that takes it another step there, another level. Quite simply, Jazz, you know, for me at least, you go to Don Mattingly. You go in his office, get as mad as you want, close the door, yell, scream, tell him he's the worst, and do whatever you do. Don't let people about like me and you know about this stuff.
Right.
Like, that's it. Just do it that way. And we can't tweet about it. We don't know about it. But I think lesson will be learned here. I have a feeling from Jazz on this one. And look, he's a good kid. He's He's young. He's great for the game. He's a great player. Really does a lot of exciting things on the field. But this is going to happen every once in a while. And
in some ways, he was one of the best players I saw on the field in this series. Defensively, offensively. I mean, I didn't realize he had that kind of power to go opposite field go out to left in this ballpark. It's not a bandbox. Now, it played a little smaller earlier in the series than it did today, but you know, he hit one out opposite field and just looked like nothing, you know. So he's got tremendous power. He had 18 home runs last year. He runs terrific.
Yep.
You know, he's a great young player for sure. What did you think outside of Jazz, who was a great star in this series? Who from the Marlins side of things impressed you in the series?
Yeah, not much hitting, so not much to really be impressed with. I guess the biggest takeaway was seeing their acquisition, Jacob Stallings.
Yeah,
who really, it was a huge ad for Miami in the offseason. I mean, you guys have been so blessed to have the same guy there virtually, with the exception of 2020. Every year for the past every years it's been, winning World Series and all that. And look, Miami had JT Realmuto at one point too, who I would put at the Posey level as far as being an all-star. Who knows, maybe potential future Hall of Famer. He's fantastic in Philadelphia too. Miami has had no catcher. It has been desolate the last few years. Bringing Stallings in and him throwing guys out, stealing and hitting that home run off Dominic Leone. Leone got even today. I had a feeling that was coming today. Leone wasn't gonna hang on today. in the ninth inning. I saw Leon pitch last year too. I thought he did a good job. So
He was really good last year.
yeah, he was really good. And I thought Soler came alive a little bit today, both with the bat and with the glove, and that's a good sign going into the Angels series for Miami for him there. So Stallings really good on day one, Soler really good on day three, and the bullpen and the starting pitching really good throughout. But to say that I'd be surprised that this is exactly the way the series played out, like I'd be rare to go in thinking, okay, Miami's probably going to go 1-2, and they're probably going to every game's going to be within a run. But this is the way the Giants play.
Yeah, no, Giants played. They were 31-14 or something like that, or 31-17 last year in one-run games. I mean, that's a great record in one-run games. Dodgers were 500 in those same games, but it's a lot of one-run games, and I get a feeling the Giants are going to play a lot more of them this year. What did you think of the Giants in this series? This is your first look at any team in the big leagues this year, but what did you think of how they looked?
As advertised, great defense, a lot of shifting, a lot of usage of different players, a lot of manipulation of the bullpen. I thought Tyler Webb was out of this world, and if he was out of this world, then what was Carlos Rodon in his first start? He was out of the planet, I guess. I'm very encouraging to see the way that those two pitchers pitched. I thought, and I picked Webb to win the Cy Young at the beginning of the year. I think he's that good. I think he's got a shot to win it. So between those two pitchers, DeSclafani, I've seen he used to be on the Marlins many years ago, so I'm familiar with his work. He's a corner painter, and when he's not, it's trouble. So that's going to kind of be his story for the year. And look, offensively, nothing really stood out for me. I mean, Ruff is back again, and when he can lift a few and get him out of a lot of other parks other than this one. I don't know that I have some strong Giants take after seeing all this, except for Gabe with the bullpen. It's just incredible how many quality good arms there are, and I think Camilo Doval is going to be a superstar in this league. I don't know when, how, or why, but I think it's going to happen. And I think that in the end he should be closing. And I know he struggled a little bit this weekend, but I remember seeing him in Miami last year and asking people on Miami about him, saying, "Hey, wait a second here. Where did this guy come from? Did Miami ever had a shot at signing this guy internationally?" So Giants bullpen is clearly superior to just about every team in the big leagues, in my opinion.
One of the names that was bandied about when we were going back and forth about Stanton, and there were different, parts of this thing, but maybe the Giants would have interest in Stanton. Mm-hmm. Then there was a possibility of a trade and this and that. Elliot Ramos was one of the key figures in that. He made his debut today, 2 hits, hit the first ball 110 miles an hour. What'd you think of him? To me, that he's the kind of the story of the day for the Giants.
Yeah, for sure. And look, with the situation the Giants are kind of having right now, you have Posey retiring, you have Longoria hurt, and then Lamonte Wade came out of nowhere last year. It's Jock is. I think Jock's going to play exclusively against righties. It looks like that at this point. So yeah. So when a left-hander pitches against the Giants, I think they got to rethink things a little bit, and I think that's where Ramos comes into play. It's like you just platoon Jock and Ramos until Wade comes back, and I think that's the plan. When we were talking about Ramos a few years ago, he was far and away the best Giants prospect, but right now I think Luciano's probably moved ahead of him at this point. But still, to see him make his major league debut, you mentioned the ball off the bat was very hard, so naturally that's a good sign too. Hard hit balls will be. And is he here to stay, Larry? I don't know. You'd probably know more about that than me, but I definitely think that when the Giants face left-handed pitching, it does make sense to at least have some bats that can help you out in the lineup, because as good as Jock is, and I know he wants to play against lefties, he stated that, and he was fantastic in the World Series too. He just crushes righties, and it's just not the same against lefties.
Craig, the Giants need some offense out of the outfield. Jock Peterson's going to help, but Duggar's a tremendous glove, but not a great defensive player, or not a great offensive player. And then, you saw it again today in his one at bat. Mike Yastrzemski he hit 220 something last year, and he looks like maybe 2 years ago was almost like the outlier. Like maybe he's not a major league ball player. So I don't know what to make of Yastrzemski, but Ramos will help them offensively in the outfield. While we have you here, let's take a little walk around Florida sports. I couldn't believe Miami sports, I should say. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't believe the other night watching the Heat game
Mm-hmm.
when Eric Spoelstra's in that huddle and Jimmy Butler just starts going at him. And then he's like,
Right.
Eric Spoelstra's like, you want to fight me? You want to fight me? And then Udonis Haslam's like, I'll
Right.
kick your ass. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, this was against the Warriors. And the Warriors are like looking down the bench going, what's going on with the Heat? The Heat are a great team, one of the top teams in the East. A lot of people think they're going to get out of the East and wind up in the finals. But that was an ugly episode. What do you make of their chances as we kind of finish up the regular season and kind of head to the second season, as they say in the NBA?
Yeah, as good as a season as they've had, it still kind of feels like they're underdogs in the East. I guess they appreciate that. I mean, look, Milwaukee, until they're not the champions anymore, in terms of odds, Larry, like Milwaukee has better odds. Philadelphia has Harden. You can't rule out Brooklyn. Boston's played great basketball. The Heat really don't get talked about all that much. And I guess there are some that feel that they're just a great regular season team. I guess we're going to have to see what happens in the playoffs and see who they match up with, obviously, in the first round, depending on who that is and the play-in games and all that. Like, new day now in the NBA. It's like at this time of the year, many years ago, it was easy for us to just take a look at 1-8 and say, oh, here's who they're going to match up with, even if the games were sort of in flux at the end of the season. But we really can't because we just don't know. But I would say that overall, what's interesting about South Florida sports at the moment is that there's a lot of optimism across the board, and that is rare for our area here. Maybe outside of the college football team, there's some optimism there too, but it's been fake optimism here on the Miami Hurricanes for a long time. But the Florida Panthers are the NHL's best team. They look like they got a great chance to win the Stanley Cup, if not to get to it would be a disappointment if they didn't at least get to the Cup Finals. The Miami Dolphins, with all the controversy that they had in the offseason with their coach and leaving and hiring Mike McDaniel, of course, very well, they get Tyreek Hill. So now and here the Marlins are trying to fight for the postseason. So it's a good time to kind of rally around South Florida sports. It's rare to have them all going on well at the same time. We'll see.
Well, I was going to say, and then you got the Heat are, going to make a run in the East, and then Larinaga. I mean, how about
True. Yeah.
how about the Hurricanes in the tourney? What what is the pecking order? Is it still very much a Dolphins town the way it used to be, or have the Heat kind of jumped in front? Where are the Marlins in this mix? Like, if you ask me this question, it's Niners, Giants, Warriors. In my mind, some would say it's Niners, Warriors, Giants. I don't
Right.
necessarily agree. I think the Giants still probably have a more of a foothold than the Warriors, but Niners definitely won. Giants, Warriors, let's say Sharks a distant fourth. How would you rank the passion of Miami sports fans towards their franchises down there?
Yeah, I think that the football is always king here because the Dolphins have been around the longest. So there's that fan base that has just simply been through it with championships in 1972 with the undefeated team. But what's happening, Larry, is that the newer fan, the younger fan, has become a little frustrated with the Dolphins. It's really been a long time since since they've been relevant, and maybe now is the time that changes. It's funny, like that's the narrative, that it has changed just because they got Tyreek Hill and just because they got Mike McDaniel. Larry, trust me, I've been through this before. I've seen the coaching changes. I've seen the Ryan Tannehills. I've seen the Devontae Parkers. I've seen the Mike Wallaces. Like, they've all come and gone. But for me, I would say that it's Dolphins 1, and I'm sorry, I'm getting texts here, like just post game. My apologies.
That's all right.
Yeah, breaking. If something's breaking, I gotta have it. So we got Dolphins 1, Larry.
Yep.
We have Miami Heat closing in on the Dolphins without a doubt. There's a very strong, passionate fan base I could see it changing if the Dolphins don't get their act together soon. So we have Dolphins 1, we have Heat 2, we have Miami Hurricanes football 3, I believe. Miami Hurricanes football 3. We have Marlins 4, and we have Panthers 5. That will really hurt the feelings of a lot of hockey fans, I know, here in South Florida. But I am sorry, Panthers fans. One great season in 25 years. It's been that long. You do not get to jump above Major League Baseball at this point. That could change too this year. We'll see.
Mish, handicap the NL East. I think this is one of the more interesting divisions and kind of wide open divisions in all of baseball. Braves lose Freddie Freeman, but they add Matt Olson. I think Philly looks really good.
Me too.
They get Castellanos, they get Schwarber, that kid Bryson Stott rakes, the rookie third baseman who beat out Alex Baum, is it Baum or Bohm?
Yeah.
The third baseman there.
Right.
So Stott rakes. I mean, they've added 3 big time bats to their lineup, and they already had Real Muto and others. Obviously, Bryce Harper. Where are the Phillies in the mix? Where are the Marlins in the mix? Seems like Phillies got hitting, no pitching. Marlins have more pitching, less hitting. The Mets did everything to try to turn their fortunes, but obviously DeGrom's status is a huge factor. And then Atlanta's, on paper, I guess still the favorite, but I don't know. And they don't have Acuna back until later in the year. I like Philly on paper. Give me your thumbnail on the division.
Yeah, I still like Atlanta. I think if Acuna comes back and he's healthy and comes back in May like he's expected, with Matt Olson at first base and Kenley Jansen in the 9th inning and some of the bullpen additions that they've made, and as Alex Anthopoulos, their general manager, is as sharp as any general manager in baseball. He's definitely proven that. Makes all the right moves, all the right deals. He's willing to gamble a little bit at the trade deadline. So I still have the Braves first, but it's, their pitching is a little fragile, I would say, and so that would be some reason to be concerned. I am with you on Philadelphia finishing second and with a possibility of finishing first. I am not somebody each year who believes in bullpens, and I know we've talked a lot about it with the Giants, but I got to keep it real here. The Phillies bullpen has derailed the last 2 seasons for them, like derailed. I personally, I know Castellanos and Schwarber add to that lineup and they make it a lot better, but their lineup's been really good the last couple of years too. They have not had problems scoring runs. They've scored a ton of runs. They get to the 6th and the 7th. They cannot get anyone out. They led the league in blown saves 2 years in a row. So what do they do in the offseason? They go get Corey Knebel, who now finally it looks like they have somebody who could close games. They also get Uris Familia, who has closing experience as well, and then Brad Hand from the left side. So Dombrowski completely rebuilt that bullpen there. Their starting pitching is probably not as good as 3 or 4 teams in the division, but if they can hit their way to the 6th or 7th inning and these bullpen additions work, you're right, Larry, they could easily win the division at the end of the season. So I'll have them second. Betting against the Mets and just picking against the Mets historically, Larry, has worked. So let's just continue to do that. Just close your eyes and predict things are going to go crazy wrong for the Mets. I'll do it again this year with them in third. Miami, I think, probably finishes 4th with a chance to finish 3rd because, again, I don't trust anything the Mets do. And then Washington, I think, is abysmal. I think they're going to lose close to 100 games. By the way, right thing to do for Washington to just at the deadline, if they can get Steven Stroud. I don't think they can move him, but if they're going to try to get him out of town, maybe he goes on a postseason run with somebody else this year. He'd be very valuable. Josh Bell, maybe they'd move him too. Washington needs to take a huge step back here, and it's the right thing. They won a World Series. It's the right call for them.
And they've got some great young pieces. I mean, with Soto and Robles, and some of the guys but they need to. I agree. They're definitely the last place team in this division, at least on paper. Okay, yeah. But paper doesn't always play out that way. We learned it here last year. Giants were like, I think the over under was like 75 wins or 78 wins.
Yeah, low.
I thought, okay, I like them over, but I think they're a 500 type team. They go and win 107 games. Craig, it was the weirdest year I've ever seen. It was the most unlikely 107 win team. 139th year of Giants baseball, and last year's team has the greatest record of all time. I mean, it's the unthinkable. And yet I look at the over under this year on Vegas, and clearly, it's like the whole debate we had in the Bay Area was, are they a fluke? Are they a fluke? Well,
right.
We got to June, we realized it's not a fluke. But now looking at Vegas, the way Vegas put the number up as far as the over-under, it's like they think either everything rided on Buster Posey or that the Giants legitimately were a fluke. So what do you think? I mean, the Vegas total on the Giants is 85.5. Give me your outsider's view of the NL West, and what side of that number are you going to be on the Giants?
Yeah, I'll be over again on them. I was not over on them last year. I want to be clear on that. I did not think they had a good team. It was shocking. The Bay Area started believing in June. Nationally, nobody started believing them until September, I think. And even in September, everyone was like, we'll see, we'll see, we'll see. And they ended up winning, as you mentioned, the most games in franchise history. But I think that they're built in a very specific way. It's just amazing to think that Farhan Zaidi has just come over from Los Angeles and this quickly, along with Scott Harris, like built this juggernaut type team. But they're not built around like one or two superstar players. It's sort of the Rays recipe to a degree, but I don't think that they meant to do that going in. But that's sort of what it feels like when you ask an outsider, hey, like 2022, who are the stars on the Giants? Would go, yeah, like I don't know, Bumgarner, right? Lincecum, right? Matt Cain, right? Any of those guys still there? No.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. They have Longoria. Oh, he's not out either. He's not playing either on opening day. The Giants' advantage is the experience of playing as well as they did last year. Look, the Dodgers are going to be very good as well, but San Diego will be good. Are they going to be much better than last year? I'm not so sure. The Rockies, I do not think will be good at all, and Arizona, I don't think will make any improvement over where they had last year. So, will the Giants win 107 again? That seems to be far fetched, but in the 90s, I could easily see the Giants going over that total.
You know, it's funny. I was looking at the Vegas over/under totals, and to me, I don't care if you don't like gambling. Every baseball fan should bet a season total
It's
and
the best.
ride the
Yeah.
roller coaster
Mm-hmm.
that the manager rides, that the players ride, that the GM rides, that the PR director rides. Because everybody in an organization, you win, you're up, you lose, you're down, and it's such a long deal. And if you make these bets, there'll be some point in the year where you're like, you look at that slip and you'll be like, I'm done. I'm absolutely done. And then there'll be another stretch where you're like, wow, I'm home free. I'm gonna win this easily. And it's just you just ride that roller coaster. It's the over under to me, the two overs that I really liked in baseball. I like the Giants. I like the Giants over 85.5. I know that sounds crazy because it's a homer pick, but I
Mm-hmm.
like that one. And then I like the Rays. I think four teams make it to the playoffs out of the AL East. And the Rays, I'm tired of analyzing the Rays. It's like the Rays are a 90-win team. We all know that. That they had one of the best records in the American League last year. They're a great organization. They know how to do it. It's 89.5. So to go over and that is 90 or more wins. But I'm just going to go. That's my two picks. I kind of like Minnesota a little bit, but Tampa and the Giants, both analytic heavy. I think don't doubt it and just go with it. I like the over both times. Give me your thoughts on because it seems like the teams, Craig, that are on the analytics cutting edge are getting an advantage on the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's funny that we're having this conversation because on my show on Sports Grid, this is sort of what I've become famous for. And if you go to social media, all of a sudden, right before opening day, random people, Larry, because I've been doing this for so long, ask me for my best total every year. They don't ask me for anything else, no
Right.
other advice in any sport, NBA, NFL, nothing. But they want to know my favorite total in baseball because I've been famous for this, going around across the country doing this. I kid you not. I cannot believe we're even talking about this. So I'll tell you the same thing that I'll tell everybody else. It's probably too late at this point, so you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you can't wager on it now.
But I would say this for the future. For those of you who are betting on season win totals, here is the process that you begin with. You take the bottom teams and you take the top and you forget them. You just get rid of them. Don't worry about them. Don't talk about them. Baltimore, Pittsburgh at the bottom, Yankees, Dodgers, whatever at the top. Just get rid of those from the conversation. There's too much variance. One player can cause a major under on a high win total. And conversely, what happens in April and September doesn't really matter. It is very easy for those teams at 56, 57, 58 wins at the end of the year to get to 62 and you lose. It's pointless. So every year, what I try to do is pick an under. And the under is going to be with a team that has more than 65 or 66 wins. But I look at them and I say, what are they going to be doing in July? And I look at the team and say, hey, how many guys do they have 1-year deals? Is there a chance that they could look completely different in July than they do in April? And so every year that is always my thing. I'll pick a team, high 60s, low 70s, go under, because I think in July they're going to be moving somebody. And that team was Washington. That team is Washington this year. 70, 71, 69 and a half. I saw Washington play a ton this spring because they had these little pods where in spring training, in Florida, they only played the same 4 or 5 teams every single spring. I mean, Larry, the Washington Nationals have Mike Franco starting at third base, and D. Gordon made the team. This is not a team that is playing for this season, and any like furniture that is not tied down, I think they're going to try and get rid of it. And then what does that mean in the second half of the season? It means that all the young kids are coming, and yeah, they may have 1 or 2 good players to come up and play, but you know how it works. Young players struggle. So that's how I view the totals. And my total was Washington at the beginning of the season. In terms of what you're saying, I'm in on the Giants over, but oh my gosh, you could make a living betting against yourself if you take Tampa Bay under. So I'm just going to pass on that one.
Is there any rivalry at all between the two Florida teams? I mean, Tampa's had success. The Marlins have a couple titles. Marlins, I mean, and tell me if I'm wrong on this. To me, it seems like the Marlins, there's a lot of Yankee transplants, but the Marlins seem like they have more momentum, it seems like, at the box office than the Rays. But maybe I'm wrong about that. How do you see Major League Baseball in the state of Florida? It was debated for years whether they should ever go there, and there were a lot of people that said Major League Baseball will never work in Florida. And now we've seen the Marlins have been there for a long time. They've won 2 World Series. The Rays are on, as we said, the edge of the analytics, and they're a perennial contender. But you still get this feeling, especially with Tampa in that terrible park, that maybe baseball it's not a proven entity there. Where are we, and where's baseball sit in Florida right now?
Yeah, this is like a 2-hour Krueg show as opposed to like a 40-minute one. So I'll start with Miami. Miami has a long-term lease with the city of Miami for that stadium being built. There's a lot of money owed. There's a lot of money that's got to go back. It's a very complicated situation as to how the stadium got built. It was built on the grounds of the old Miami Orange Bowl, and so they kind of like finagled the historical end to get the stadium built in a way, and then they sold the team. So very complicated situation there. And until Miami wins consistently, I don't think anyone will be going to games consistently either. The trust factor has been rebuilt a little bit here the last couple of years, but inevitably winning is going to move the needle. To answer your question about a rivalry, there is none. There is no rivalry with Miami and Tampa. It's never discussed. That Miami's rival is Atlanta or New York, the Mets. Like, it's those two teams. No, I mean, I don't think there's really any. I mean, they do. The Marlins only play the Rays once a year or twice, if that, in the interleague. I know that will change. Maybe that will spurn it, but not really a rivalry. As far as the Tampa Bay area is considered, they have the worst stadium in baseball, looking for a new stadium. And I mean, Larry, let's be honest. I mean, the people in Tampa and the people in St. Pete are looking down in South Florida going, wait a second, how did they get it done?
Right.
And a repeat is not going to happen as to what happened here, and that's going to hurt them. If you want my opinion on it, and I know it hurts to say it, I think inevitably the team will be sold or moved. I think Oakland's got a better shot, unless they go to Vegas to stay, than Tampa Bay does. They've been fighting this whole idea of getting a new stadium, but yet they're not confident that even with the winning, Larry, a lot of fans still do not go to those games. In terms of attendance, though, to correct that, yes, more people are going to Rays games than Marlins games right now. That is for sure. But if I had a prediction, it would be the next relocated team or sold team would be the Rays. I don't see them getting a stadium built in Florida.
Couple things before we let you go. Derek Jeter. Why did the Jeter thing end the way it did? I didn't think that. I thought he was going to be there for a long time. And then it just, like, they got to a certain point. He got out. Many of the people that he brought in are still there. What is the story there? Is there a backstory there?
Sure. I mean, Larry, if you want, we could just stop here. There's a whole documentary on this coming out.
Really? Are you in it?
Oh yeah. I think am I allowed to say that I'm in it or not? I don't know. Actually, you know what? I take it back. I don't know if I am in it or not. There's a chance I may be, but I can't say that I'm in it or not. And I definitely signed something saying I can't talk about it.
Okay.
But but there is a 6-part documentary very similar to The Last Dance. In fact, the first trailer for it is tonight on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, featuring the life of Derek Jeter in a way that is very similar to The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. It's a 6-part piece at the end of 2022. Of course, I'm super excited for it because I know a little bit about it. But that piece of it, of course, is going to be at the end of this. I would imagine the majority of this is him playing with the Yankees and doing everything there. So what we know is that Derek Jeter had a 5-year contract with the Miami Marlins, and within that contract, there were some documents that were reviewed and published by the Miami Herald called Project Wolverine. And in these documents came a lot of expectations. Larry, winning on the field, improved farm system, more fans coming to games. Remember, Derek Jeter only owned 4% of the Miami Marlins. Bruce Sherman owned more than 40%. And there's other investors in this too. In fact, Forbes recently came out and said the Marlins are actually worth less now than when they were purchased by Bruce Sherman and that ownership group for $1.2 billion. They're saying it's worth now less than $1 billion. So Jeter was with the team for several years. You can make some positive points about some of the things that were accomplished there in terms of a culture, in terms of, in Latin America, some really nice things are being built to help their scouting and development there. Some really good people are now working for the organization that were not before. Lots of positive things can be discussed. But in the end, Larry, this is about wins and losses. And for 2 months in 2020, I mean, that's really the only sign that they had on the major league field of winning. And you could not go into this season in 2022 and believe that based on the players that they had signed and traded for, that all of a sudden that this was going to be a postseason team. It could be, but there was no guarantee of that. And so in the end, Jeter's contract coming up, what would you do if you were in Derek Jeter's spot and your contract was about to end? Would you want to know where you stand? Would you want to, have a new contract? And I sort of think that Derek Jeter, being Derek Jeter, was like, hey, like what's going to happen here in the end? Didn't get the answers that he wanted from the ownership group, and essentially, at least in the press release that was released, said that he was leaving the organization because they're going in a different direction. I think this was pretty mutual on both sides, but because obviously when you have a press release that has both the owner and the CEO, sort of collaborating at the same time, it sort of tells that message. And they're in the end, but clearly I think Larry, that Derek Jeter would have loved to have another 5-year contract for $5 million a year and ownership stake of 4% or 5% of a Major League Baseball team. But, clearly that was not going to happen. And so rather than maybe being forced out or pushed out in a week, a month, a year, whatever it was, he decided to leave.
Interesting. The other blockbuster, I mean, obviously you already mentioned that the 49er offensive coach is now the head coach of the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a new era. Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, a ton of speed.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle. Like, is Tua going to be good or not? That's ultimately, I guess, the big question. But there's this other little thing, the Brian Flores lawsuit and
Sure.
Stephen Ross's claim, or the claim that Stephen Ross paid $100,000 or more, or whatever, for every loss, or put that offer on the table. How was that story reacted to at the time? Where is that going? Forward. Obviously, the Dolphins are moving on with a new regime, and everything. This whole thing will be viewed as a distraction, I'm sure, by the organization. But how is it viewed in the market? Where do you think it's going, and will it impact Ross's long-term ownership of the Dolphins?
Yeah, it's really hard to say because I mean, Flores has said that he has a lot of evidence on this. And so naturally, Larry, if he does, it's going to be very damning to the owner, Stephen Ross. But, it's sort of what I always find interesting in sports is that, especially, and this with the coaching, with the coaches and the management, when you're in it and you're sort of covering teams, it always feels like the media and the fans, for the most part, until they're gone, really like their coach, until they're fired and they don't like him anymore. But in this case, it felt like Brian Flores was pretty well liked by everybody in the building in the media and the fans. And it's like now the second he's gone, everyone is like so excited, and there's a different vibe about the team. So having only covering really predominantly for me the Marlins and Major League Baseball, I've kind of gone away from doing all of the South Florida sports with my show on Sports Grid every day. It doesn't really allow me to do much more than baseball and covering sports wagering and fantasy. I can't really tell you because I personally have had so few interactions with Brian Flores, I would just be guessing. So my answer is we're just going to have to wait and see what this lawsuit provides. There are other coaches that are stepping up and backing Flores here clearly. But my overall opinion on the situation is if Flores genuinely has proof that the coach asked him to throw games and lose games to some sort of benefit, that Stephen Ross is probably not going to own the Dolphins anymore. And conversely, if he does not have this evidence, I don't think that this is going to go anywhere. that's pretty much it. I think, to me, that's what it comes down to, because that's the claim above all claims, as we just saw with wagering. And believe me, I'm a huge fan of it. It's everything that I do. The slippery slope, we just saw it with Calvin Ridley, right? Calvin Ridley basically, I mean, did he really even do anything wrong? He wasn't even playing. This guy was in Florida. He's on the Hard Rock app. Boom, he makes a couple bets. He's suspended for a year. Now we're talking about the coach the owner telling the coach potentially to throw games. That would be a huge bombshell if proven true. And I'm sure the NFL will back Ross until they find out otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be historical. If an owner is forced to divest himself of his incredibly popular, growing financial asset, in this case, the Miami Dolphins, because of shame and that's brought upon the league. I mean, this would be, I don't know, it's different than Donald Sterling, but in very similar way. It's a rarity, and I'm sure it makes billionaire owners of teams go, wait a second, we could be forced out. I wasn't banking on this. Let's finish with something light.
Okay.
If I'm rolling into South Beach for 3 days, what do I got to do? What would, if I was there, if somebody's going to Miami for a weekend and they call you, Craig, I'm going to Miami for the first time ever. You say, oh my God, you're going to be here. You gotta go. Where are you recommending them to go?
Well, there's a couple. It used to be as easy as just saying South Beach, and that would have been accurate. But I mean, if you don't live in South Florida, it's hard to kind of follow the news. But there have been a lot of issues and a lot of crime and a lot of incidents going on, and some real fighting between people who want to come down here for spring break and the police, and the way that it's happened. And so for me, when I hear that now, I get a little concerned, just because I think they need to fix the situation one way or another. They've had curfews and things. I mean, these are things that I grew up with never hearing about before, but it's become a little dangerous. But that being said, not on South Beach, but all the way down, even further on Miami Beach, naturally, Larry, right now it is stone crab season. So Joe Stone Crab, you hear about that. Legitimately, yes, that would be the spot to go. Being 48 years old, Larry, it's like the South Beach day, my South Beach days and running around days are done. But if anybody came to South Florida and wanted to know the best restaurants, that would definitely be it. But for me, now having a family and having 2 kids, I grew up in Miami. I went to North Miami High School, but I am now a Broward resident, a family resident. So when people come, they're like, "Hey, we're going to South Beach." I'm like, have a great time. Let me know. Let me know how it goes. If you decide to come up about 25 minutes north, there's a nice little place called Hollywood, Florida, and even Fort Lauderdale, Florida, that I am happy to entertain you. But I'm going to kind of stay a little clear of that right now. So that the fine food areas absolutely hit me up, but the party scene, a lot more hair ago.
Best month of weather in Miami is
March.
Right now, or we just finished it.
We just finished it. April is pretty darn good too, but March I think is the best. February is pretty good too, but some rain. But March, Florida in March is fantastic.
Worst month weather-wise, where you're just like, man, I can't wait for it to end.
August, because in August, well, maybe September, but August is Larry, when hurricane season starts. So we all have our guard up pretty much 24/7. You wake up in the morning, everyone goes to Twitter, they go to Instagram. People in South Florida and in Florida, they go to the weather to see if there's a hurricane coming, and they're going to have to leave their house in like 5 days. So yeah, that's the dynamic. August, September is not a lot of fun weather-wise. Very hot, sticky, and hurricanes are threatening.
All right, buddy, we're going to hit the chat room now, but we'll let you go because I won't
Okay.
subject you to it. But Craig Mish, Sports Grid, check him out, Miami Herald. Thanks for popping on here and giving us some South Florida, some Marlins. And,
Sure.
I was impressed with this opening series. There's some Jorge Soler's here. There's some guys to watch on this Marlins team. I know the Angels are coming up next for you guys. So enjoy the baseball season. And thanks for stopping by on my new venture. And hopefully if Giants and Marlins hook up later this year out there, maybe we can get you back on for a segment. We'd love to do it.
No doubt. Hey, by the way, congratulations on an unbelievable run at KNBR, and
Thank you,
even a
man.
bigger congratulations on this new venture. I don't think that the people in the Bay Area understand how lucky they are that you are continuing on and delivering not just sports talk, but video for everybody out there. I mean, honestly, it is just such a pleasure and an honor to even come on with you. And thank you for asking me, Larry.
Hey, onward and upward, and guys like you on the show are always great. So thanks for coming on, Craig.
You got it, Larry.
Take it easy. Craig Mish stopping by on the Krueg show. All right, let's hit the chat room because I know there's a lot of people want to talk about this game. Len, what did you think? Craig is awesome, man. Craig's a good guy, and it's funny. Go Knowles says, Mish, your thoughts on the series? Yeah, we had Craig on. If you're just tuning into the Krueg show after Giants baseball, Giants get the win today over the Marlins and win 2 out of 3 in the series. First series of the year goes to the Giants, and today it was Anthony DeSclafani and some outstanding defense and the debut of Elliot Ramos, who was phenomenal.
I'm going to put the 680 smartphone call-in show into place, and you can rattle on. Then I'm just going to disappear into my strange, weird brick thing that's got a little green screen fade here.
Nice. You're going to tweet out the phone number so people can dial in some phone calls.
Here. So if you're in the chat and you want to come on, ask a few Giants questions of Larry, hop on in. So I'm going to pop out, and you'll see it in the chat. Meanwhile, Larry will keep talking Giants.
Sounds good. Take it easy, Len. Appreciate you stopping by. Interesting talking to Mish. Interesting watching the Giants. And if you want to chime in, feel free, hit the chat number, and we can take some phone calls and have some fun. Manny Machado, it's not the actual Manny Machado, but Manny Machado, I don't believe, he asks a question that I think is one of the best questions of the day when it comes to the Giants, and that's who is the Giants closer right now? I thought that was one of the more interesting things that came out in this series. Is it Jake McGee? Is it Brebbia, who was put on the bereavement list today? That's how Elliot Ramos got on the roster. Is it Camilo Doval? I mean, is it Jose Alvarez? Today was Dominic Leone. And Leone, who didn't look great in the first outing of the year, looked great today. He looked overpowering. So, I'm okay with the mix and match idea. I know a lot of people would say, you know what, I'd rather go with a one set closer and roll with it throughout the year. And I do understand that. But you know what? I'm okay if they want to go closer by committee. Play the matchup game. Why not? You've got all these numbers of how these pitchers fare against different hitters. And so, if you want to close with Leone on a Friday or a Sunday, and all of a sudden you want to come back, 2 days before and close with somebody else. In this situation, I mean, if you have Craig Kimbrell, or if you have if you have Mariano Rivera, if you have Rod Beck in his prime, if you have a big time closer, then you go with your closer. But if you don't have a proven closer, and I would say with the Giants, they don't. In that situation, go by committee. And that's what they're doing. And I like it. Why? Because McGee is probably the guy with the best credentials, and he's a one-pitch guy. And if you really looked at McGee in his final year with the Dodgers, I thought he was better than his first year with the Giants. Why? Because the Giants used him so much. And he's a guy who can be truly nasty and dominant, but he needs to be spotted. And then Doval is a guy that you don't want to put necessarily in right in the crosshairs of the advanced scouting reports, which if you make him the closer, that's probably what happens. Alvarez has maybe the best command. Leon's done it before, I believe. So they've got some options there. But interesting game for the Giants today. It was DeSclafani and Trevor Rogers. And the Marlins, rallied in that first inning against DeSclafani. And then he strikes out Sanchez, he strikes out Aguilar, and he got Avisail Garcia to line out to second base to end that rally. So the Marlins could have jumped down the board early against the Giants and didn't in the first, but they did in the second. Wendell singled on the first pitch. One thing that was really clear in this game is that the Marlins scouting report against DeSclafani was jump them early in the count. They really were aggressive early in the count against DeSclafani, and it paid off early. Wendell had that single on the first pitch in the second. Anderson then bloops a single to left field. Wendell goes to third. And then Jazz Chisholm lines out to center field on the sac fly, and that scored Wendell. That made it 1-0 Marlins. Giants jumped on the board in the bottom half of the inning, and this is where we got our first look at Elliot Ramos, who started in left field today. Ramos hit a ball off of Jazz Chisholm's glove that Krueger said went 107 miles per hour. I mean, it was just absolutely a bolt. And then Mauricio Dubon hits a double down the left field line, and Ramos has got major wheels, so he scored all the way from first. And then Luke Williams, one of the other new offensive players for the Giants, hit a little bloop single to right field, scored Dubon, and it's 2-1 Giants. And at that point, you're thinking, all right, they look pretty good. They're up 2-1, going for the series win. They added to that in the third. Wilmer Flores hit a sac fly that scored Austin Slater, who had reached on an error by Trevor Rogers. Rogers on a little nubber pulled the first baseman off the bag, and Slater got aboard. Then Ruff doubled to deep center field right off the base of the wall, and Slater only went to third. Now, this is one, too, where there's a little bit of pressure right here because the third base coach, the Giants have a new third base coach. It's no longer Ron Wotus, and he held Slater at third, and then Crawford struck out. And so you're sitting there going, I'm sure that third base coach is sitting there going, oh, my God, I'm going to cost us a run by not sending Slater home. He probably would have made it home, but there would have been a play at the plate. So then Flores gets him off the hook by hitting the sac fly, and the Giants have a 3-1 lead. The one thing I liked in this game is that the Giants played a lot better defense. They had 4 errors in the first 2 games of this series, but today the defense was really, really good. So DeSclafani's cruising. He's in the 4th inning. Wendell gets the infield single off of DeSclafani's kick save, and then Brian Anderson struck out. So you got a 1-out situation for Jazz Chisholm. And Chisholm's, I thought, was probably the best Marlin in this series. He doubled to right field. So now you got Wendell on third, Chisholm on second in a 1-out situation. Peyton then struck out. Jorge Soler walked. And this was a bad call too. I thought Ramon De Jesus, the home plate umpire, missed the call there on strike 3 on the 3-2 pitch. Instead, you got the bases loaded with 2 outs, and Bailey went to the mound. At this point, it's 26 pitches into the inning. DeSclafani's already looking like he's tiring a little bit. Then Garrett Cooper got drilled. He got ahead 2-0, and then DeSclafani went inside and hit him. So that forced in in Wendell, and you got a 1-run game. So Kapler goes to the mound. He pulls DeSclafani, 30-pitch inning for DeSclafani, I think 74 for the game. And he brings in Harleen Garcia, and then Garcia was outstanding today. He got Jesus Sanchez to pop out to center field on the first pitch, and that ended that threat. So to me, that was a huge point in the game. And Harleen Garcia was major today for the Giants. So he gets out of that inning. Then Garcia in the top of the 5th inning strikes out Aguilar. He gets Garcia to fly out to right field, and Joey Wendell. This was the weirdest play of the game, I thought. Top 5, Giants up. Joey Wendell gets into a 2-strike count, and then bunts foul for strike 3. This is a guy who can hit the ball out of the ballpark. You got 2 outs and nobody on. Get down at the end of the knob and see if you can hit one out. You know, I mean, that's what I would want. Instead, he's bunting with 2 strikes and 2 outs. So he bunts into a strikeout. That one was like, what the heck's he doing there? Bottom 5, Crawford got an infield single. That was his first hit of the year. So that was good to see. Giants didn't score in the 5th. DeSclafani's back out there in the, I should say Garcia's back out there in the 6th. And, you know, he's looking good. Anderson flies out. Chisholm grounds out. And Harleen Garcia, and by the way, on that play, the Chisholm ground out, it was a 360 pirouette by Thairo Estrada. Really, really nice play. Estrada had 2 phenomenal plays in the 6th, and that was probably the better of the 2. But so Harleen Garcia has gotten 6 out in a row, and what does he do? Kapler goes to the mound, he yanks him for Littell. Now, that one surprised me. Now, it worked.
Oh, whoa.
It definitely worked. We bring in Chef Tommy on the line here. Hey, Chef.
Hey, long time no see.
Hey, what's up? I was just saying how, you know, they pulled Harleen Garcia for Littell, and it worked. But I hate that situation. I hate pulling the reliever that's super dominant, and that's what Garcia was today. But it worked. And then when I looked at Littell's numbers from last year, I understand a little bit more why he did it. Littell last year, 4-0, 2.92 ERA, 61 2/3. He only gave up 46 hits. He struck out 63. So obviously, Kapler's got a lot of confidence in Littell. Chef Tommy, what'd you think of the win today?
I thought it was pretty good. I'm not a big fan of DeSclafani. You know, I think the ultimate test for a pitcher is if he does well against the Dodgers, and he never really does.
They hammered him last year, yeah.
I didn't think they would sign him. Honestly, I'd take Gosman over him, but
yeah. I mean, you know, if the price tag were the same, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but I like DeSclafani from the standpoint of he's got a big league arsenal as far as you know, he throws hard. He's a different look than some of their other starters. He's not, you know, if you overuse him, you know, that's a bad thing. And maybe Kapler's thinking that maybe that's why he took him out. He didn't want to overuse him, but 74 pitches is not a lot. But you know, if you can keep his workload down over the course of the full year, DeSclafani is pretty effective. So that's
he does well against the Padres.
What's that?
He does well against the Padres.
Exactly. He's had good numbers against the Padres.
Yeah.
So what did you think of Ramos today? That was the story.
Oh, he was awesome. He was great. Was he like 2 for 3 or 2 for 4?
2 for 3, and he struck out. I think the at bat that he struck out was like 96 or 97 fastball up. But yeah, I mean, 2 rockets off the bat of Elliot Ramos in this game.
Yeah, I really like him.
Great to see. Well, what did you think of the opening series? 2 out of 3. You got to feel good about you know, the fact that they're where they're at, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke too soon about the bullpen. Yesterday they were kind of iffy, but today they were amazing. So I guess you just can't jump on it, and like most emotional fans, like the bullpen sucks. This guy sucks. It's just, you know, emotions get into it. But they were great today.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the Giants had a great bullpen last year, and and on paper it could be a really good bullpen this year. So, you know, but it is interesting though, because they don't have the closer. Like, you know, they've got guys who can close, but they don't really have a closer.
Yeah.
You know? Who would you like to see them today? They closed with Leon.
Yeah.
We've seen them close
Impressive.
with McGee. We've seen them close with Doval. We saw him close with Alvarez. Who do you prefer? Who do you trust? I guess here's the question for the Giants fans. Who do you trust the most in the 9th inning? Because we know they're going to play matchups, right?
Yeah.
So if there's lefties, they're going to go to the lefty. If, you know, they're going to play the numbers game, they should. But outside of just playing the numbers game, which Giant reliever do you have the most confidence in?
If it was last year, I would have said Doval, just because nobody knew what he was doing. Like, his slider was amazing. He threw fast, but, you know, he's still raw. He needs some training wheels. So I don't think they're going to use him like they do McGee. So It's a tough question. I don't know. I think I agree with what you're doing. They're kind of mixing it up. I guess not having a definite closer right now.
It's like in a way, I think I would probably share it between Leon and Alvarez,
Mm-hmm.
but Leon makes me nervous sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
Today he was making me nervous, and he impressed me. 3 up, 3 down. He was great.
Yeah, he looked really sharp. I mean, he
But
looked
Friday,
like a guy. Friday he didn't look that good.
no,
Um, and
because
I
we want
don't.
consistency, right? That's
Well,
why
I
McGee
don't.
is
Oh,
pretty much.
here's my thing. I don't want to close consistently with Doval because
Yeah, I mean,
I
yeah,
think that's asking a lot, right?
yeah,
I don't want to close consistently with McGee because he's a one pitch guy.
yeah.
I don't want to close consistently with Rogers because I think the lack of velocity in big
Mm-hmm.
league hitters, if you're a right-handed hitter against Tyler Rogers and you're committed, you're disciplined enough to say,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just slap it the other way. I think it's too easy for big league hitters if they really want to go up there and change their approach. When a guy throws 74,
Yeah, 74.
you can slap it the other way,
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't, but these guys
Mm.
are so good that they can, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're hitting 90 and 95, 98, and here comes a guy with 74, if you're disciplined enough to just say, you know what, I'm just gonna slap it the other way. I think big league hitters can almost do that at will. And I felt like the
Mhm.
Dodgers last year, a couple
Yep.
games had game plans, Tommy, where they were like, you know what, we're gonna go the other way against Rodgers. And when you have a game plan like that, I don't know. I to me, that's my concern about Rodgers. So I don't want to McGee, Doval, Rodgers. No,
Mm.
believe it or not, I was very impressed the other day with Brebbia.
Yeah, I know, because he was terrible last year.
He
His
was.
ERA was what, 6 something?
I just never. I mean, if you watched all the games like we do, you just never felt You just never felt confident in him. You just
Yeah.
never felt like he was going to get the job done.
And he was constantly checking his notes. Like he didn't look prepared or anything last season, but
Well, and he was coming off an injury, so maybe
yeah.
he wasn't fully all the way back. But the other question that we just don't know the answer to yet, right now, Tyler Beatty's in this bullpen. I mean, what are they going to do with Tyler Beatty? He's out of options. They don't have a rotation spot for him. They're right now they've got 28-man roster and they're going 10 deep in the pen. But I think they got to take a look at him and decide, and based on what they see, either trade him or decide what he's going to be. I don't think I would take a guy who throws 98, who's a former first round pick, who has like 3 pitches, and invest as much time as they've invested in him, and then DFA him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
exactly.
like, do you put him in? Do you let him close, or let him go in high leverage situations? He's got 98 and 3 pitches.
Yeah.
Or do you make him a closer? Do you make him a spot starter? Is he your long man?
I don't know.
I hope they're not just going to resign to the fact that you're going to DFA him in a week, because
No.
I don't want to see them give away Tyler Beatty.
Yeah, I haven't seen him pitch that much, so I couldn't say. But
The other thing that kind of caught me off guard today, Elliot Ramos, he's going to wear 53.
oh,
Did you see that? 53 for Elliot Ramos.
No, I didn't notice the numbers.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I mean, well, I guess Lincecum wore 55, so maybe 50. Maybe it just doesn't that seem like a spring training number? 53, maybe not.
That's an odd number. Yeah,
It is. It does. Like you'd think there'd be like a number in the 20s or something that they would give him.
definitely.
All right, Chef Tommy, you got an overall thought of the first series. They took 2 out of 3. The Padres roll in tomorrow night. How you feeling about the team 3 games in?
Well, I think the bats got going a little today. I mean, no home runs, but they were able to score 3. So that's the complaint I was having yesterday. If you remember that situational ball,
Yeah.
And
I mean,
start.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say that, it's amazing when you add one hitter
Exactly.
one hitter to a lineup,
Yeah.
it can change the dynamic.
And I
was
love
saying,
Slater. Man,
You
that
like
guy's
Slater?
awesome. Yeah, he's a great fielder, and he's a great hitter, man.
Well, it's when I'm looking at this Giants outfield, I see Jock Peterson, but Jock Peterson's probably only doing it against righties. So
Uh-huh.
you gotta have somebody who you can pinch hit for Jock Peterson against lefties, and
Mm-hmm.
I see Slater as that. Duggar, I really love Duggar.
Hmm.
Duggar's the guy that I love watching because he's so good defensively, and I just think in this ballpark, I always go back to what Brian Sabian told me when the park opened. He's like, ideally, you would want 3 center fielders in an outfield this big.
Yeah.
And so I agree with him. And to me, if you're going to have like a Darren Ruff or somebody like that in an outfield spot, or if you're going to play an infielder in left, or if you're going to, then you need somebody in center who can go get it. And Duggar is that guy. So I like Duggar. But I guess I would say my biggest encouraging thing out of the first series would be Ramos, because I love the way Ramos looked as far as athletically today. To me, that's my biggest positive out of the opening series was Ramos. My biggest and Rodon, I guess I would say Ramos and Rodon.
Rodon. Yeah.
My biggest negative, I'd have to say, was probably Yastrzemski.
I know. I was going to say that. Yeah, it's kind of something's. He's either slumping or he's just.
I don't know. I don't know
He
what
can't.
it is.
He's not hitting anything.
His numbers last year weren't any good, so it's like, and that he got a lot of opportunities, and it was amazing because the Giants are so about incremental improvement. I was shocked that they just willingly brought him back. There were a lot of outfielders available this offseason.
And why was he in the leadoff spot yesterday?
Maybe they're just trying to jumpstart him. I mean, I think Kapler is trying to jumpstart him a little bit.
I see.
And only Kapler would be able to tell you that. I think it also had to do yesterday with. Are you talking about yesterday in yesterday's game?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, maybe he just wanted to stack the lineup with as many lefties as possible, and he felt
okay.
Yaz has got the best speed of those lefties. I don't know.
That makes sense.
I mean, today I saw they had Crawford hitting in the 3-hole against Rogers. And the reason for that, they said, was that Rogers doesn't have great numbers against lefties. So then Crawford did get a hit today. So I don't know. It's it was very, very interesting to kind of see some of the decisions they made today. The one that I didn't like was pulling Harleen Garcia for Littell, but you know what?
Yeah.
It worked out. And then he closed with Leone. The one thing about the Giants pen is that they're going to use a bunch of guys in a bunch of different roles.
Yep.
And, they're coming off a 107 win year. So guys like me ought to maybe stop questioning it,
Yeah.
It's like, at the end of the day, they managed the hell out of their pen last year. It was unorthodox and they got it done. Here we are, one series in. It doesn't look like they have a closer on this team, but they got a bunch of guys that they believe in. Yeah. So they'll play the numbers games and play the matchup game every night. Maybe they can do it. Maybe they can surf that wave and play the matchup game to their advantage.
We'll see. The Dodgers lost. So
was that a final? I saw Urias got lit up, huh?
Yeah, he got 6 runs in like the first couple innings.
Coors Field, man, can't stand Coors Field. What do you think of Coors Field?
They always win somehow over there.
Well,
they had a winning record there.
The Giants and the Giants crushed Arizona and Colorado last year.
Yes.
So we'll see if that trend continues. But Chef Tommy, we appreciate it, man. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
Yeah, great talking to you as always.
Take care, man.
See ya.
Chef Tommy checking in. I love the video calls. Let's hit the board and hit the chat a little bit. Let's see. King Tones. Let's see. No, actually, Matthew. Let's go to Matthew here. Matthew says Yaz is okay. He shouldn't be batting 5th. Well, that is the issue. That is the issue. Is that you've got some guys who are a little underwhelming offensively, that you know, that are in key offensive spots. Yaz has had 2 good years with us. I don't think he's a flash in the pan. Really? You gotta look that up. 2 good years? I thought he had 1 good year. Maybe maybe I'm wrong on that, but I mean I like Mike Yastrzemski and I'm rooting for Yastrzemski, but man, if you look at the year he had last year, you sit there and go, well, can you hit in the 220s, and play a corner outfield spot, at the big league level? I mean, that's the question, and that's that's the one question I have with the Giants is, do they have enough depth? If last year, if a guy wasn't going good, they could just get him out of there. This year, it's Raphael says it here. He says Yaz is trending towards a platoon type player. That's what I see as well. I don't see an everyday guy there. So, and in this outfield, okay, so you have an outfield, 3 guys in the outfield. I'm a firm believer that one of your outfielders has to be an everyday guy. Who's the Giants' everyday outfielder? I mean, that is really the concern. Jock Peterson's good against righties. Maybe Slater's good against lefties. Duggar's more of a defensive guy. Yaz has got to he's got to deliver. And the way this thing's structured is Yaz has got to, play a lot in the outfield, hit against a lot of right-handed pitching, and hit 20 plus home runs, maybe 30. And that's the thing. But to me, I always wondered, why was he in the minor leagues for so long? And then when he got his shot with the Giants, he looked pretty good. But then it's like, okay, how long are they going to ride with him this year, coming off a year where he hit 220? And I'll double check his stats, but I mean, I'm a Mike Yastrzemski fan, but wow, I mean, you think that they would need more from an outfielder than what Yaz has to offer, as far as average. So, I mean, it's, this year, obviously he's still looking for his first hit, but, I mean, if he had a track record of several years, it'd be one thing, but he doesn't have a track record of several years of production. He's 31 at this point. He played 2019 with the Giants. 2019, good year, 272, 21 home runs, 55 RBIs in 371 at-bats. 2020, he hit 297 with 10 home runs. So, but that was a condensed year. Last year, if you look at his numbers, 224 with a 311 on base. He still hit the 25 home runs and drove in 71 runs. But they're going to need that. You know what I'm saying? They're going to really need him to hit the long ball and be an offensive force. They can't have another 224 year out of him. He's got to hit 250, 260, 270. If he does that, then the Giants are probably scoring some runs. If he doesn't do that, man, I mean, who are you going to play? I guess maybe Ramos. Maybe Ramos could be your everyday outfielder. But right now, it almost looks like you've got Belt as your everyday first baseman. I like Thairo Estrada, by the way. And maybe one thing that we got in this series was that maybe Thairo Estrada is an everyday guy. Maybe Estrada's an everyday second baseman. Crawford's an everyday shortstop. Longoria, if he's healthy, potentially could be an everyday third baseman. But obviously Bart's your number one catcher, though Casali caught today. But you don't have anybody in the outfield that is an absolute everyday guy. And I think if there's one area that would be an area of concern, that might be it right there. That they don't have an everyday guy in the outfield. Let's throw some love to our sponsors. Actually, let's get our comment off there, and then we can do that. But we'll throw some love to our sponsors. right here. And thanks to everybody who's been checking out the Krueg show. We're about 3 weeks in, having a lot of fun. And we're able to do this largely because we do have sponsors. And Dan Coach Emilio is one of our good sponsors. And he was actually with us on the show yesterday. Dan is a retirement planning specialist, and you can check him out by giving him a call at 925-628-9966, or also checking him out at securemoney.com. And of course, uncertain times with all that's going on in the world, that's the climate of today. And that's just reality. And so when there is that kind of stress around the globe, you want to make sure that your money is safe for your retirement and that you're all dialed in. So enter Dan Coach Emilio. And Dan's got 25 years of experience, and he was born and bred right here in the Bay Area. That's right. He's a Giants fan, Niner fan, Warrior fan, and a good guy and a friend of the show. And a guy that we just had on yesterday. And you can check out the video we actually did with Danny by checking out one of the videos, just going to the YouTube channel, the Krueg Show channel, and looking for the interview that we did with Danny. But he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. And, you can call him for an appointment today. It's a one-size-fits-all situation. Make sure you're putting your money where it is secure. Once again, Dan Coach Emilio, retirement planning specialist at securemoney.com. And you can check him out at securemoney.com. And you can also give him a call, 925-628-9966, your fellow Bay Area sports fan and retirement planning specialist. And he is a really, really good guy. So, the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to trust your money to somebody that's not trustworthy. Danny absolutely is trustworthy. Dan Coach Emilio. And then our other sponsor is Telmetrics, telmetrics.co, Casey Bateman and the people at Telmetrics. This is a really interesting company as well. This is a company that's using computer vision to meaningfully extend the physical therapy clinic and enhance the capabilities of medical professionals to inspire positive outcomes. That's really what it's all about. Telemetrics, they provide a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in clinical and telehealth environments. And the new technology will enhance and support rehab therapy professionals who specialize in improving musculoskeletal conditions. So if you're an orthopedic surgeon, an occupational therapist, a physical therapist, or a chiropractor, using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So what do? You go to that website, telmetrics.co. And thanks to the people at Telmetrics for being a sponsor of the Krueg Show. All right, let's hit the chat for a few more thoughts, and then we'll call it a Sunday night. It's time for me to go barbecue some steaks. Man, I think I feel pretty good about the Giants, and I'm sure a lot of you do as well. I mean, the opening series, you never want to overreact either way to the opening series, but, good or bad. But, I think he got a pretty representative, there you go. King Tone says, Viva Telmetrics. Thank you. Matthew Mears says, steaks. Hell yeah. Yeah. We got a little steak on the barbecue. Last night I did barbecue chicken, came out real good. And today we're going to go barbecue steaks. But, as far as this series and just, this is actually kind of an interesting one. Rick Killeen says, hey, Larry, any idea how they'll handle Ramos and the roster moving forward? Seem like they need the right-handed outfield bat. I would say he's here to stay. What proof do you need? He's one of the fastest guys in the team. He's got an absolute howitzer for an arm. He can play all three outfield spots. He's a premier, potentially an everyday outfielder. I mean, if you look at the Giants outfield right now, who is the guy who can be an everyday outfielder? They don't have any. Slater's not an everyday guy. I don't think Yaz is an everyday guy. I like Jock Peterson, but I don't think he's an everyday guy. Duggar is probably as close as it gets to an everyday outfielder, and that's because he's left-handed and he's a great defensive player. So, to me, they're in need of an everyday right-handed hitting outfielder with some thump. So, if Ramos can do the job, I think how they handle him is put him in the lineup every day and enjoy watching it. I mean, he hit 2 balls over 110 miles an hour or whatever it was today. I mean, he's rocketing shots. I got to see him fail before I'm taking him out of the lineup. And the one thing, you heard, Mattingly, one of the things Mattingly does is he makes sure that he gets guys in the lineup the first week of the year. And you heard that, Craig Mish mentioned that Joe Torre did that as well. Why do managers do that? They do that because in spring training, there's a lot of split squads usually, most years, maybe not this year. But guys come out of spring training and they're getting regular at bats. So the last thing you want to do when a hitter's getting regular at bats is go ice them by sitting them on the bench for 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever it is. So I think a lot of good managers understand that, especially if they were former players, especially if they're former hitters. And so that you want to get your guys out there. Now, a guy like Ramos, he came off of a decent spring. I saw him hit a couple really hard shots in Arizona, but really his body tells you the story. He's lost weight. He's lean. He's got great bat speed, and they don't have anybody like him. So, heck, I'd put him out there every day. There's no doubt about that. But a couple more on the chats. King Tones, I heard Ramos can be a hothead. Well, we'll see. They're in the major leagues. You got to keep your composure. There's just no question about that. Mercedes, BMW, Porsche says, yeah, Larry, go until 2 a.m., please. 2 a.m. Could you imagine if we just sat here till 2 a.m. chatting it up? Raphael says they should have gone after Castellanos. Yeah. And there's, I don't understand that one. King Tones. Hey, Larry, can you do 5 hours of post game like Marty does so I can finish my chores and make dinner and sleep peacefully? Well, I don't know if I can go 5 hours. As I said, my wife will look at me funny if I don't get those steaks on the barbecue. Mercedes says Rodon's performance was nice to see. Yeah, I think that was probably the other takeaway outside of Ramos is Carlos Rodon and 98. And, what was really intriguing about Rodon is that it's pretty easy to envision that when you have Rodon, you've got a guy who, who can give the defense kind of a day off. I know that sounds crazy because it's baseball, and obviously they're going to hit the ball into play. But when a guy has the kind of strikeout potential where he can pile up 8, 9, 10, 11, he had 12 strikeouts. There's just no question that, that's a guy that you want. That's a guy that can take a lot of pressure off your defense. So I really like that. To see Rodon and to see, how he's doing, and how he did in that first start. To me, it's all about make sure he stays healthy. Kalimba is donating money here for this one. Hi, Larry. Who's the next plus prospect you expect to see this season before September? Jelly, Genovese, or somebody else? That's a good question. Well, I'll say based on spring training, I love what I saw out of Jelly. Jelly's throwing, he's a 6'11" righty who's really compact, who because he's 6'11", his velocity ramps up. I mean, you can see he's throwing from a downhill plane, and he's, he looks, it's like free and easy. So it's like the ball comes out of his hand. I'd probably say Jelly. Maybe Brett Auerbach if Auerbach somehow, continued to rake. I think Auerbach's a really interesting guy. But yeah, that's that, as far as the Giants have a number of prospects, how many of them are ready to help them at the major league level? Ramos is the guy for sure. And for the year, based on spring training, I'd probably say Auerbach as well. Auerbach was pretty, it looks to me to be a, you can play second, you can play catcher, you can play center, and you're kind of a gamer type. I don't think he's going to have a big, long stay in the minor leagues. I really don't. Do we have GTC here? Should we go to GTC?
Yeah. Hey, Larry, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, long time listener, man. But I'm just really happy that she got into this YouTube space right here.
Appreciate it, man.
Really
Happy to be here as well.
Yeah, you know what? I know this is going to be really Giant centric, so I'll make it quick. Yesterday, Dave Cavill tweets out, and it got a lot of A's fans really boiling, saying that more, and this is a quote, more revenue from new ballpark is more player spending. Do you buy that? Is the first question. And the second question is, would you agree that if they put more of an investment on the players, for example, re-signing Chapman and Olsen, which they say they don't have the money for, um, wouldn't that be a trickle down effect to where the actual fans would go to the Coliseum and watch this product, especially if they made an investment like that?
This thing has had so many different chapters, as you know. The frustrating part about this is that for an A's fan is that they have such a good team and they've put together such a good group of guys. And now they're in the phase where they're trying to show that they're making an effort, but they don't want to lose any more money. And they want it to be self-sustaining. I mean, yeah, if you have a brand new ballpark and you have people in the stands, your operating revenue is going to be greater. And theoretically, you can spend that money on players. But I really don't want to hear it because you're talking about an organization that kept their payroll at a very low level and carved themselves out a nice tidy profit year after year after year, sapping off the general fund of MLB, crying poor mouth, kicking this can down the road. I understand their frustrations, trying to get a stadium built. But I mean, the Giants and the A's have gone about it totally differently. The Giants ownership group bought the team in 1992, I believe, right before the 93 season.
Yeah.
And in that year, in that decade, I should say, the 90s, they lost about $100 million dressing up Candlestick Park, trying to be competitive, trying to win as they established a viable plan for Oracle Park to be built. And now they're in that phase. Now they own their park. They've paid off the debt, and they're they're rehabilitating the city and basically all the way to from the ballpark down to Candlestick. And so they're the richest owners, and they're very well positioned financially. The Giants are. Yes. The A's, on the other hand, just kept selling off players and kind of betraying the trust of their fans to the point where they have such a small fan base. And now this latest run, I mean, why did Melvin leave? He left because they couldn't be competitive. I'm surprised Billy's there. If Billy didn't have a piece of the pie, he wouldn't be there. That's the only reason he's there. So now you've got this weird situation where Billy's getting his ownership. So now he's like, it's like, he can, I think he had more passion to win before he got a piece of the pie. I think for the fans of the A's, the worst thing that happened was when Billy became a part owner, because now he's part of this kind of plan to just kind of, keep making revenue annually as they continue to own the franchise and the franchise value goes up. I mean, it's all part of kind of a financial deal. And it's more of like, and at this point, you've betrayed your fans. Then compiling the situation, making it worse, is that you're owned by John Fisher. John Fisher is one of the wealthiest people in the country, and he easily could have absorbed the losses that would have allowed this team to maintain a competitive product on the field while searching for this stadium. And that's really the difference. The Giants ownership group maintained and tried to compete. They acted like sportsmen in the final decade. It wouldn't have gone on forever, though. They would have ended if they didn't get their park built. But they got their park built. And the A's now they don't want to spend any more money. And it seems to me that they can say what they want, but their actions, always read people's actions. If you're confused by what they're telling you, read their actions. And their actions are telling you that they want to spend just enough to, stay out of the headlines, just enough so they can slip out the back door to Vegas and have somebody build them a stadium and move down the road. They're done with Oakland, and the A's fans should be done with them. And unfortunately, I feel bad for the A's fans because they're sitting there. You love the team that you love. It's not easy to separate. So you got a lot of loyal fans there, and there's more loyalty going from the fans to the team than there is going from the team to the community, and that's the problem.
That is the problem, and if they do actually move to Vegas itself, I mean, I already have a team here locally because I really don't buy that notion to where Dave said that if they build a new stadium, of course you're gonna have a new venue right out in Oakland, but you already have venues like Chase Center and you have Oracle Park. You also have one down in Santa Clara as well where the Niners play, and I mean, how competitive can you be to bring other types of venues to generate revenue? I don't buy the whole fact that they say that with the new stadium they could pay for more players because they have a new stadium for their soccer team down south, and they're not investing into any uh, good players at all. It really doesn't. It really doesn't jive with me because you have sample A down in San Jose, and you see it right now. So
Well, and I would say too, it's like, are you investing in your farm system? I mean, it'd be one thing if they were investing in their farm system. I don't, from what I'd heard, I didn't even the deal that they just made, sending Minaya, who wants to a no the other day, to the Padres. Did they even get back top 10 guys? See, I mean, that's the other thing. It's one thing if you're getting prospects and you want to get down the road, but now they're trading I mean, we're talking about generations of the same move, and people aren't going to keep falling for it. Eventually, they're going to say, you know what? You tell me what year you're planning on being competitive and I'll buy tickets to support the franchise in that season. And so it's just unfortunately the A's are at their wits' end. With the community, and their fans are just going to have to endure another subpar type year where a smart baseball organization and a horrendously run business side of things in that organization. That's what you got. That's what you got. You got two. You really almost have two teams. You got Billy and Forrest in their baseball side, and for the most part, they've had a really good baseball side of their organization. But the business side is just going through the motions and carving out a little profit and just kind of spinning their wheels, and it's a tired story at this point. I wish I had more insight to give you. I think you probably know more about the story than I do.
Yeah, they just released a press release today on Twitter, or Dave Kaval did, saying that the Major League Baseball has allowed them to go ahead and search for other venues. Meanwhile, quote, we're trying to get that new stadium here in Oakland. So they've already made up their minds. So this is. I mean, it's not really hard for me at all.
I mean, Caval's going to Vegas. He's been sitting in Vegas for many times, tweeting at hockey games about how great Vegas is. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's had one foot out the door for over a year.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's clear. It's on his Twitter.
Yeah.
He's literally getting wined and dined in Vegas, and they're acting like they're really trying for the stadium. We'll see. I wish Major League Baseball would force an ownership sale here, because let's be honest. Was it good for the NBA to abandon Seattle for Oklahoma City? No, that wasn't good for the NBA. And would it be good for Major League Baseball to abandon two teams in the nation's fourth largest market, one of the wealthiest markets in the country, the San Francisco Bay Area, or put a team in the desert, in a market that's whatever Vegas is, 41 or whatever it is? It's not in the best long-term interest of the game. But how do you force a sale? I wish they would kick them off of the MLB welfare and make them stand on their own 2 feet. And then they would either, but they want to go, and he wants to continue owning it. And he's basically holding the fans hostage at this point as he looks for greener pastures. And it's criminal when you factor in the guy's net worth is $3 billion.
Yeah, it's really inexcusable.
Bad.
I mean,
It's bad.
Pittsburgh has a new stadium too, and they've only probably had one good run while they were in that stadium, with Starling Marte and all those other folks.
Yeah.
And they're
I mean, it doesn't guarantee you're going to win titles.
Exactly.
But it guarantees that you're going to have some revenue coming in, especially with luxury suites and that kind of thing. I mean, if the A's built a state-of-the-art facility, let's just say they sold the thing. Let's say Joe Lacob came and bought it from them.
Oh.
You think they would continue to be the same? In one day, they would go from the poor team that had nothing to a team with a bright future.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But then
if Joe Lacob would buy it, but they're not for sale because John Fisher sees the escalating value and says, like, I don't want to get rid of this asset. This is an asset that's appreciating. I don't want to sell this. And unfortunately, the fans are along for this ride, and it's just been very, very painful.
Yeah, well, I'm hopping off that ride, so
I hear you.
At least we have a team here, so right.
Yep, I hear you. GTC, appreciate it, man.
Hey, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks for the kind words too.
Oh yeah, of course, all the time, man.
Have a great Sunday.
You too.
There you go. GTC checking in on the video call. GTC Reels, thank you for your time, Larry. Oh, another donation. Look at that. People with the donations. I never get over the fact that people actually donate money through these chats. Very, very, very cool. Very cool. And anyway, I just want to let people know we're having a ton of fun doing this. We've been doing this for less than a month, and it's great. It's absolutely great. Love being on YouTube. Love the audience. Wow, Mercedes BMW Porsche has just donated $20. Larry, listened to you since high school. Hopefully you're in college right now. Love that you still have the passion to do this. My concern with this team is getting consistent offense over 162 games. It was brutal to waste a performance like Rodon's yesterday. I agree with you. That was what I talked about yesterday, was that that's the big concern for the Giants. But you know what? The one thing that's really encouraging about the Giants is that, and I've made this point on KMBR in the past. It seems like I'm really like in tune with, I'm like in lockstep with the Giants. And I say that because every single time I'm like, oh man, they need something. The next day they do something. I mean, like for like 3 seasons in a row. So I like the way Farhan and Gabe manage the club from day to day. They watch the games and they react to what they see. They were anemic in the second game of this series. They didn't touch Pablo Lopez in that game. Rodon was awesome, and they lost 2-1. And I said it yesterday in the post game. That's number one. That's game number one. Game number one, where you got a great pitching performance and you lost. Let's keep track of how many big time pitching performances you get from your starter, and you lose the game. And you lose the game because you don't hit. So yesterday was the first one, and I mentioned it. And sure enough, here we are before we were even done with the show. What happened? They're calling up Elliot Ramos. So, I mean, I'm really impressed by the Giants. It's like I'm in tune with the club. Why? Because they're my team, and I've been watching them for decades. But, man, there have been past years where I'll be like, oh, this team doesn't hit. They wouldn't do anything for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, just continue to do the same kinds of, the same kind of baseball day after day after day after day, losing the same kind of way. And now they respond. Now I feel like our view of the team is one and the same. They want to win. They know that the Dodgers could run off a 100-win season. How do they know this? They did it last year. LA won 106, and the Giants needed to go to 107 to beat them. So they know that they've endured it, and they know that every one of these 162 matter, and you don't want to give away any because you're a little deficient or you're not quite up to snuff either pitching wise, you're not deep enough, or you're too thin, or you don't have enough offense. They look at their roster and they respond. So I'll give it to him. Jack says King Tones has crumbs in his couch and carpet. That is great. And thanks to all the people with the donations. Very cool. I mean, I gotta say that is one of the coolest aspects of doing the super chat on here are people and their donations out of the blue. And it is very cool to see people, actually donating their money to have a question read in the chat. So that is just really cool. Raphael says it's constantly evolving. There are very few set pieces. It's really analytics and real life playing percentages. It really is. Raphael, that's a great point. But what I really love about Farhan is that I feel like he's as impatient as I am. I'm impatient. I see one game where the Giants don't hit and they had a great pitching performance. And I think, oh, that kills. You can't waste a good pitching performance. And the great thing is that Farhan sees it the same way. Farhan sees it exactly the same way. And he wants to win as bad as I want to win. And I get the feeling Kapler is the same damn way. So, Kalba says, we donate because your content is premium and you're the best, Larry. What? Come on. Well, you know what, Kalba? Thank you. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. I really do. We're having a lot of fun with this. We're going to be here with, we probably won't do every post game because I think Wednesday of next week, there's a day game. And I think I'll be on with Grant Cohn while we're doing the post game. But King Tone says, is this Raphael from Marty's is this Raf from KMBR's Marty's guy? By the way, Willard, if you're out there, it's Raf. All right. It's not Raf. It's Raf. I talked to Raf. If I got to bring Raf on the Krueg show to acknowledge to everybody, including you, Mark Willard, that his name is Raf, not Raf. His name's Raphael. It's not, Raphael. Raf. I asked him. I said, "Are you Raf?" Willard called you Roth. Marty calls you Raf. I've been calling you Raf for years. Tell me I have not been calling you the wrong name. He said, Krueg, I'm with you. Fist in the air. And he said, I'm Raf. So you know what, Willard? Bite me. He's Raf. I mean, it's just no way around it. He's Raf. Now that you're 95.7, he's back to Raf. Those years where you called him Roth it just wasn't right. King Tones. Now I'm cracking myself up. King Tones. Congratulations, Larry. You surpassed Bill Lasky today. I don't know who Bill Lasky. Oh, Bill Lasky. I have more people listening to this than Lasky. Hey, let's not rip Lasky. I like Lasky. Did I ever tell you when when Lasky made his major league debut, my dad was at that game. And I remember as a kid, my dad came home and he's like, I went to the game today. And I gave him a look like, why didn't you bring me? Don't you love me? You don't love me? You went to the game. He's like, oh, last second. And of course I was in school. He's like, businessman special. Lasky 7-0 over the Expos. And I remember that was Bill Lasky's debut. And very, very, Bill Lasky was a really good Giant pitcher. I would say 83, maybe. I think I was 13, probably 8th grade. Lasky and Hammaker. That was your lefty righty combination for the Giants. Those guys were, and Hammaker was damn good as well. Hammaker was good. Hammaker became better as time went on, and I think became an all-star. Lasky, I'm not sure if Lasky was going to be an all-star. I talked to him about this, and then Lasorda at the last second bumped him for somebody else. But Bill Lasky was a good pitcher in the big leagues, like a 13-game winner with the Giants a couple years when they had some lean years. Big right-hander, threw hard, downward slider. Always a good guy. But I was going to say, coming up on the show this week, I was just so when we're here, tell you what's coming up on the channel on the Krueg show before we get on to dinner, because it is 5:45. So we do have an incredible week planned on the Krueg show. Let me give you a little hint of what's coming on the Krueg show this week, what I have accumulated through my booking prowess on the channel. Just some of the guys you're going to hear this week. All right, tomorrow night, Monday night, Padres coming to town. And the great Marty Lurie will join us in the chat in the post game. So Marty will be with us. And then Mark Sweeney, the former Giant, former Padre, he's going to call in tomorrow night. Now, he's doing post game after the game. But I told Sweeney, I said, hey, Mark, we love you, brother. We'd love to have you on. He said, Krug, I'd love to call in after my show's done. So we're going to get him probably in his car calling tomorrow night after Marty. So that will be cool. Mark Sweeney driving home from the game. And then Tuesday night, we're going to do post game, and Tuesday morning, I should say, we're going to do a 10 a.m. live stream with my good friend Grant Napier. So a lot of people wanted to get Grant Napier on, and Grant's a great guy. Matthew, by the way, says Mark Sweeney is a dude. Yeah, no question. Mark Sweeney's the man. Great guy. This guy says, Matthew also says, Hammaker got lit up by Freddie Lynn, 83 All-Star game, never the same afterwards. Matthew, I hate to say it, but you are dead on that one. You pegged that absolutely perfect. That one, I just, a giant memory that I've just tried to forget. But I could never forget that one. I mean, Freddie Lynn at Old Comiskey with the poles everywhere, and he took Hammaker deep that night, and it was like I was 13, and I was like, oh man, this hurts. But yes, Grant Napier will be in the house. King Tone says Grant Napier, yes. So 10 a.m. Monday morning, we're gonna do, or Tuesday morning, I should say, we're gonna do a sit down with Grant Napier. Live stream, and who knows, we're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about how he left KHTK and DeMarcus Cousins and what he's doing now, and the Kings and the NBA playoffs and what he thinks of the Warriors, and we're going to do a deep dive with Grant Napier. Wednesday is going to be great. Vish Kumaran will be back. Vish is our superstar in the making. I love my segments with Vish. So that's Wednesday at noon. And then Wednesday at 3:00, I will appear on Grant Cohn's channel and join us over there. We'll talk a lot of Niners with Grant at 3:00 on Wednesday. And then Thursday, Kyle Posey is going to stop by from Niners Nation. We'll have our Niners Nation. We're partnering and collaborating with Niners Nation. I don't know if anybody heard that. Check it out. Go to NinersNation.com. You'll read stuff. I'm not going to be writing for them, but Kyle Posey and I and Akash and some of their guys, we're going to do some live streams talking Niners, and then they're going to post those live streams or clips of those live streams on Niners Nation's website. So Kyle Posey will be with us on Thursday at 3:00. And then Thursday nights, I believe, and I don't have an exact time on this, but Rob Rang will be in the house, and we'll talk NFL draft. And Rob Rang's one of my scouting buddies from the scouting roads, and he is absolutely one of my very, very favorite guys of all time. And we want to talk more NFL draft. The draft's coming up on the 28th. Niners are picking 61. Are they going to trade Deebo Samuel for a bunch of picks? Are they going to trade Deebo to the Jets for a bunch of picks? It would make the draft juicy. I don't know if I want to see that, though, because I kind of like Deebo Samuel. And then Friday night, Giants go on the road. Thursday's their off night. That's why we're doing draft stuff. And then Friday, they're in Cleveland against the Guardians, Giants Guardians. And guess who's back in the house? Ned Coletti. So Ned Coletti will be with us Friday after the Guardians Giants game from Progressive Field, I believe it's still called, there in Cleveland. So that is an exciting week ahead, and there could be some surprise guests. We've talked to Kyle Haynes, the Giants farm director, about coming on. Sam Amick may be in the house. Pecan may be in the house. We're gonna try to not overbook it, but at the same time, give you guys lots of great premium content. So if you're tuning into the Krueg Show for the first time going, what is this? This is Larry Krueger talking Giants, Niners, Warriors, NFL draft, really a number of things. May even get Mitch Jurisich on this week and talk a little bit about the Masters. So don't tell me who won the Masters. I'm taping it. Don't tell me in the chat. I know Scheffler had a big lead, but I taped the final round of the Masters because I wanted to watch the Giants today. So now I'm going to go inside, barbecue, have some steak with the kids and the wife, and then GTC Reels says one-stop shop for sports here. KMBR is in serious jeopardy. GTC Reels. All I'll say is, all right. That's going to do it for us. Oh, by the way, Pecan, Matthew says Pecan is great as the draft comes closer. Pecan's the man. Absolutely the man. And Rick Colleen says best Bay Area sports channel, Krueg Show. Rick, you're the man. Some of you guys need to call in after the show as well. Al Prez says Krueg is winning Monopoly against Bay Area radio. Yes, I am. All right. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody who's participated. We've been doing this, as I said, for about 3 weeks. We're loving it. I mean, I'm loving it. I hope you're loving it because I'm loving it. And be sure to hit the like and subscribe button and be extra sure to hit the notification bell so you can be notified to catch all of the upcoming Krueg shows. I love you guys. Seriously, I love everybody who supports this thing going forward. I'm having so much fun. I've never had this much fun in my life. I got to thank Glenn Dempsey. I got to thank my producer, young Ryan, who will be joining us on the air next week as well. We're really excited about that. We're going to introduce Ryan to the airwaves. And just thanks to everybody. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to people in the chat, people who have called in. Thanks for the people who have liked the videos on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook. I'm putting as much content out as we possibly can. We're trying to give you absolutely the best we can every single day. And thanks for supporting. And thanks to Telmetrics. Thanks to Dan Coach Emilio, our wonderful sponsors. We've got some new sponsors that will be welcoming in this week as well. I can't even tell you how, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but when people, like what you're doing to the point where they're like, hey, you know what? I used to advertise on radio and I don't want to advertise on radio anymore. I want to advertise on your YouTube Krueg Show channel because it's growing and it's going to be huge. And I want to get in on the ground floor. And when I hear that from people, and I've gotten that response this week from a couple of people who have contacted me literally out of the blue saying, you know what, Krueg, I have this company and we do marketing and I want to be connected to you and I want to be connected to your channel. All I got to say is thank you. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for believing in us. And we are going to deliver top-notch content going forward on this channel. And thanks to all those sponsors, because really at the end of the day, we need you to keep the lights on, so to speak. So thanks to everybody. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Go Giants. If you just tuned in, Giants, win the home opener Friday, 6-5 and 10. They lose 2-1 yesterday, but they win today with some outstanding defense. The debut of Elliot Ramos and the Padres coming to town tomorrow night. And we are going to be with you after Giants baseball with Marty Lurie and Mark Sweeney. Have a great night. Larry Krueger, often wrong, seldom in doubt. Good night, everybody.